So this next clip, the sandbag drop to ollie the set, was a total, you know, the concept of ollieing. This is well before like Tomasello and people like that who really kind of got into the whole dynamics of like, it's basically not reinventing skateboarding, but conceptually what skateboarding is. I just thought this trick was sort of an interesting concept, showing people like, let me show you what ollies really are. It's just weight hitting a tail and then you finish the ollie. So I thought to myself like, dude, it'd be so sick if you could move your feet far enough away from the tail, because that's what we're all thinking. Like, you never see anyone get off the ground without touching their tail. Like, it's just not going to happen. So what I thought was really cool about this is that I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to get my feet far enough forward that you're certain that I didn't ollie at all. And then if you time it just right, I should be able to complete the ollie if I drop the sandbag. And so you're thinking to yourself like, oh, cool. Well, all you have to do is drop a sandbag then and then jump. Bob's your uncle, and you catapult yourself. For some reason, rolling up to a set of stairs that's that big, in your mind, you're going, ooh, is this the one? Do I really want to try this? And the fact that this is the craziest part, you think the easiest part would be riding, right? Without looking, you can't look where you're dropping a sandbag on your tail, because if you do, you're not looking at the set of stairs you're about to go down. And I think it's a 7. 7's not really one that I just like dabble with, right? So to me, it was a big deal. So not being able to drop the sandbag exactly on your tail for a good pop, that was the hardest part. I would miss the tail all the time and then like try to do the rest of the ollie down the set and my board just wouldn't be with me at all. So that concept alone, I just thought it was cool to like show people what an ollie is. And then just sort of like the floating down the set afterwards was so satisfying when I finally landed it, because the cause and effect of that, and then the trying it out and trying to like get it anywhere close to working. I'm surprised. It took forever. So I am actually, for what it is, it's very simple now. So obviously creativity in the last few years, especially since this video came out, and I don't mean in conjunction with that, but after that, creativity has just sort of exploded and expounded. But, you know, Richie and Gomiyagi, Matt Tomasello, all those guys have really kind of pushed things where still at this point, what was cool is there was a lot more wide open space for like simple concept tricks like this. So it made me happy to sort of think this up and make it work, because down a smaller set of stairs, it would have been easier, but kind of pushing myself to do it down 7 I felt really good about that. So the 2 buckets, 1 board trick. This, you know what I really liked about this is this was just sort of I saw the buckets in the Berrics. I don't know what they were painting or whatever, but I saw them in there at some point off to the side. And I love, because my dad he basically built our house from scratch and was always building stuff, always making stuff. That construction supplies I always love, and anything that you think would be in a Jackie Chan fight or somewhere that's like stuff basically that you can skateboard with, but just not everyone's kind of like, yeah, not those things. That it was really fun to look around the Berrics, and when no one is there to kind of just dabble with what I find, I think that's way more fun. I don't know if it's more creative, but it's just more all the props and stuff that don't get any love. I just thought this bucket thing was a rad thing to sort of spend time on, because it was like, the concept is very simple. You stack 2 buckets and you're thinking like, you know, how are you going to get anything out from underneath that? Because of like, I mean, there was paint in both buckets, like they were heavy. And if they wouldn't have been heavy, they would have just fallen over. Do you know what I mean? Because the concept is you need 2 things that are weighted enough for you to like land it enough to put your weight on it, while at the same time have the buckets, you know, the skateboard de-wedge from there, and then the buckets fall down and stay standing up. Because if the buckets would have fallen over after I did it, I don't think it would be as satisfying. And for me, this was like kind of my own version, even though it's only a concept, because that's not what I was going for. But you know, the old pulling the tablecloth, and then all the cups and all the bowls and everything, it's breakable. You know, all the china stays on the table exactly where it is, but you pull the tablecloth. So that was my version of that. And I do think this trick, because it was sort of like, if you look what I jump off of, and it's a kind of a board to board trick, really hard to get your speed just right to be able to catch the second board and then to sort of board slide off of there. And then it was also diagonal on the corner, because I really wanted to do it straight over the set of stairs. And that board was so hung up, and because those buckets were so heavy pressing the board together, that to capture the board and stay back on, I kept landing on the board and it would just be stuck between the buckets and I would fly off. So it was like, it was a very rare occurrence when I could actually get it to hit the ground. So even though you watch that and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that looks so fun. To me, it was such a gamble of, I would have done it straight over the set of stairs, but I could never capture the board and keep any sort of momentum. So I had to go diagonally. Well, even doing it diagonally, you would hit the edge of the stairs, which was kind of sketchy. So when I finally rolled away from that one, I was actually super excited. When I first walked in the door of the Berrics, well, the old Berrics now, I saw like it was the first thing that caught my eye. There was a set of stairs on the other side of like this hubba with a rail on it, I think. And there must have only been about this much stairs. It was the skinniest set of stairs you've ever seen. They just obviously were going to make it wider and decided they need to make it shorter. Instead of just cutting the stairs off, they just left them there. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect moment to do some sort of like try to ollie into firecracker, but also kind of like wall ride, smash your wheels against the wall. And I thought there was just so much friction. I wasn't even sure that you could like get that close to the wall, still firecracker. So really I was just hoping with the friction of the wheels and kind of like the end of your truck against the wall, I was just hoping that I could get a sustainable long firecracker while pressed into the wall. And then also because the like I said, it must only be about, the stairs are only that wide, then it's sort of a grind firecracker. So there was just so much. I remember waxing my trucks to death and just like it looks, when you see me do it in there, you're like, oh, that looks simple and fun. It was anything but that. Hooray, big surprise. Anyway, pretty satisfied by how it came out. So all right, so this next trick was a total, I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie Old School, but I mean, the concept for me was basically this. I'll tell you this, and then I'll tell you the kind of funny story that goes with it, is that skateboarding makes a shape all the time, right? But you've never seen anyone, I mean, there's been videos that come out since this, obviously, but where people will take, paint powder or whatever else, and they'll do kick flips and tray flips and whatever. And then you can kind of see the shape the skateboard makes in the air. But I wanted to make a version of it with the caution tape that I just thought there was in my mind, I pictured my skateboard going past the camera and then this sort of like dragon's tail just flowing in the wind afterwards. That, yeah, in my mind, it was like super artistic. But more than that, I was just thinking like, oh, this should look rad to see the shape of a skateboard actually going up and kick flipping. I'm like, I swear that's something that like I've never seen, but if the tail is long enough, it'll probably satisfy you to see it actually spinning in the skateboard and it'll keep the shape. And then once I started trying kick flips down, by the way, terrible at kick flipping down stuff. And I don't mean that in a self-deprecation way, just like there's something about it, like heel flip, sure. Other tricks, pop, shove, front shove, sure. Kick flips for some reason, I will just do a kick flip that you sort of just front foot never makes it to actually kicking it. And so you get kind of like the catapult, like ready to crotch you when you land popsicle. So by the time there was just something about just kick flipping. And then, cause at first I was like, I'll just kick flip this. And then a quick hippie jump, because like, it's rare that at this point anyway, it was rare that you saw anyone do something where they like land any sort of down set of stairs and immediately hippie jump something. So I just, even though it's obviously caution tape and totally influenced by Richie because he was filming at the same time as me, that I was like, whatever, dude, it's cool. I'm going to hippie jump caution tape, so I'll just take it with me, right, and jump it. So anyway, all that to say, this trick, just doing a kickflip down, I was doing a terrible job, and I was really bummed at myself. Like, I was just not landing kickflips, and I'm thinking, people land kickflips down this set probably every try in here. What's happening? And so putting the foxtail on my skateboard and then trying a couple and then watching the footage back, I was like, no, that looks so awesome. I literally used the caution tape foxtail to motivate myself to kickflip it because I was just doing a terrible job. And as soon as I saw the way it looked, and I'm like that, if you can motivate me by the end product being something that I feel like this is actually rad looking, my brain's like, you know what? You're not as terrible or as scared of this as you thought. And then sure enough, I started kind of nailing a couple down it and still was kind of like landing too late or the caution tape that was supposed to be the hippie jump was too far away where it just didn't, the rhythm wasn't right to land it and jump. So I just kept scooting the caution tape closer and closer and closer until I just felt like, all right, this is entertaining to land, and it's the right amount of space for me to immediately jump where you're not going, I got to ride down that. Who cares? I just felt like by the end, it was just a satisfying clip to see the caution tape go under the other caution tape. All right, so this next line, I'm actually really proud of for a couple of reasons. A, I'm not really a line guy in general. My sort of like the way my brain works, like I'm more interested in kind of like doing something new all the time. So my techniques and practicing specific things, I wasn't as strong on at this point. I mean, now I've kind of like done the work to kind of have most basic tricks down pretty decent. But at this time period, I was just kind of hoping and wishing. And so I was very happy with myself with this, because the half cab heel and then into a trick with a flip, that was sort of a dream of mine, because I've invented a decent amount of tricks that include flips, involve flips, flips the skateboard, flip between whatever those things are. But for me, the whole adding a ratchet strap, which other people call a slackline, but to me, my dad just used these to strap down things on trailers. So the bounciness and whatever of it, I was used to it in like a workman's sense, not in like a, hey, let's balance on it and see if we can bounce on our belly. I think that stuff is cool. I've just never, that wasn't my concept. All I wanted to do is, I saw skateboarding didn't have any bouncing in it, and I thought to myself, like, dude, let's get to bouncing. What's the quickest, fastest way to be bouncing instead? Because anyone who's ever done trampoline skateboarding, you're like, could this be any more fun? Why can't I put my trucks on this? And so for me, I was like, bring the trampoline. This is the simplest version. So I introduced slack lines or ratchet straps to skateboarding in this video. And what's cool is my use of it in this, I was just really happy to use a hippie jump version where you start on your skateboard, you hit the slack line, and you're able to flip back to your skateboard. And that felt really good because, dude, half cab hill in general for me, I'm like, oh, thank goodness it worked. That when I landed those back to back and I felt like that it was a solid landing on the flip, it was a huge deal to me. And funny, on a side note with this, is introducing the slack lines. And obviously at that point, people are like, what are we doing? Is it like, what are we saying with this? Why is it bright yellow? That actually Grant, who was filming at the time, he's like, yeah, dude, bring it in here if you want it. Because I explained to him the theory of like what I was thinking about doing that day. And he's like, but just, and he saw me and I put it up at just like a decent height. Like I didn't think anything about it. And he's like, yeah, but if you're going to do it, can the slack line be higher? So it's like, looks gnarlier. So you have to jump up to it more. And I was all, yeah, I guess. But it's crazy because when you add, elements to skateboarding like that, and technically I don't think that's building something, but it's funny how I didn't realize there were still standards for that. And to me, I'm like, dude, whatever is going to make it look good, I will try to get myself together and make it work, So it was very cool to me that he had that suggestion. He cared enough to help me with it. I love that. Thanks, Grant. And yeah, I can't believe this, but that line of all the things in that part didn't take that long. And it's probably one of the more memorable things in there. So I thought it was cool that it for me, it takes a long time to do something. So the fact that it worked out relatively easily, so psyched.